I was listening to a video by Let's Be Frank, and the question he was asking, or the subject he was talking about, is how the nerds or the squares or the so-called educated lames are treated in the black community, and whether since the the educated lames or the squares aren't really wanted in the black community or wanted by black women especially, should they stay or do they owe anything to the black community? And that's a very valid question. And, for once, I'm stumped because I really don't know. I know how I feel, but I really don't know, because a lot of times folks like us, and I do consider myself a square. I don't have the degree or the letters behind my name, so I can't be called an educated lame because, like I said, I don't have the paperwork. So I'm not officially an educated lame, even though I can be treated like an educated lame. But growing up, not only is it the neighborhood or the school, but also your family treats you differently. And for some reason, there is a low-key hatred towards, like Let's Be Frank calls us, outliers. But we can use the term, squares or nerds or geeks, which is the term that they used to use for us, back in the day, was geeks. There's always been I don't know, I don't know if it's low-key hatred, but a resentment by the rest of the families. And, if you weren't raised by a father or mother that happened to be a geek or a so-called square, then even within your family, like my family, I was always considered strange or weird because they'd be watching a comedy and I would want to watch a documentary or the Animal Channel or whatever, and something else that other than what the rest of the family wanted to watch. And so I was always considered strange. I'd be reading encyclopedias or something else. My sisters and brothers would ask for a toy. I want a book, which was funny when I was small. But as I grew up, then that teasing turned to jealousy and then sometimes turned to envy. Now, as I have gotten older, I'm in my 50s now, they have come to accept me and they have come to actually need me, which is weird because when you're younger, you're teased, you're looked down upon, you're called weird, you're called strange, you call all of that stuff. But the thing is, the same people that do that to you are the people that actually come to you and need your help when they need to figure out a computer, or they need to figure out a program, or they need to figure out a printer, or something wrong with the car, or anything, or reading documents. They need you. But other than that, you're teased because you don't dance like everybody else. You're not interested in the same music as everybody else. Your subjects are too deep and too technical. Okay, you don't keep everybody laughing. So a lot of us educated lames or nerds or geeks or outliers, as Let's Be Frank talks about, learn how to be funny. You learn how to tell a sly joke to keep everybody lubricated. You find yourself trying to make everybody else around you comfortable. Whereas in the other communities, say Asian or white, or sometimes even Hispanic, they want their smarter people to act smart. They want their smarter people to lead them. They want their smarter people to be above them, and they give those people praise. But in the black community, the nail that sticks up gets pounded down. I was listening to Issa Rae talk, and she was saying when she was in Senegal, because she was raised in Senegal, and then she was also, when she came back to the United States, she was raised in Washington, D.C., where she was in a mixed community where it was okay, in private schools, to where, it was competitive and they wanted the children to excel. But when she came back to Inglewood, to the neighborhood, she found out that she was teased for being smart. She was teased for proper language. She was teased. She had, in other words, she went from being typical or being elevated to being awkward. And that is typical what's going on in the black neighborhood. You find yourself having to dumb yourself down. You find yourself having to change the way you talk, change the way you act, tell jokes, because you're trying to ease the feelings of the people that are around you. You're trying to bring yourself down to fit in. So in other words, they only want you to be smart when they want you to be smart. They want you to read the books that they're reading or watch the TV programs that they're watching. They want you to use words that they can understand because they don't want to raise themselves up. And that's part of what's going on in the black community. Black women are notorious for that. I can't tell you how many girlfriends that I've had will in person put me down for being smart or knowing something or calling me strange or calling me weird to family. But to their girlfriends, they'll brag or they'll laugh at you because you're a square, because you're smart, because you don't talk about what women actually want to hear. You can't entertain them. You can't bring yourself down to the level to entertain them, because basically if you are an educated lame, a nerd, or whatever it is, you do have to bring yourself down to the level to entertain them. And that's what a lot of educated lames and nerds, black nerds don't understand. They think that because in one segment of your life you're praised for being smart and you're pushed to be smarter, it's the opposite direction when you get involved with a black woman, and a typical black woman especially. A lot of times black nerds or squares stutter because with the way we have learned to speak in school, the words we have learned to use in school aren't the same words that we can use amongst other people. So we find ourselves doing what? Translating. Picking out words that aren't going to be too big or too offensive to the people that quote unquote are regular or hip. And every now and then you'll see the glazed looks in their eyes when unintentionally you pop out a word that you use all the time but they've never heard of, and their eyes glazed over. Or if you're in a crowd, they look at each other funny. And you're trying to figure out how come they're looking at you funny. You don't realize that you've thrown out a word that they don't understand. So the question is, and I don't know the answer to it, should the squares, the outliers, the educated lames, the geeks, the nerds, the black nerds, stay in the black community, even though that you're not respected, you're not wanted, and then you're low-key hated by not only the community, but the women that you're involved with. And the only time that you're respected or liked or basically tolerated, because that's basically it, they're tolerating you, is when you're bringing money into the community, you're bringing jobs into the community, you're actually doing something for them. So since you're doing something for them, they will tolerate you. Like a black woman will tolerate you. Black women will tolerate you if you're giving her the lifestyle that she thinks she wants. If you give her the granite countertops and the spiral staircase and the big house and the luxury automobile, she will tolerate you, which is what Top Sergeant Willie P constantly talks about. Well, you niggas have to get on their grind and put her in a big 4 or 5 bedroom house that's 3,000 square feet with granite countertops and a tile that matches the color in the car that she's pushing the big Benz. Because only then and only then will she do what you ask, and she will tolerate you. What Sergeant Willie P is not understanding is that black nerds or black educated lames want the same thing that everybody else wants. And it's something that Crystalline Kerosene says all the time, and I've heard it oft repeated by a whole bunch of black women. And I think that black educated lames, quote unquote, should basically do the same thing and adopt the same language. Black educated lames, the nerd or the outlier should do what? And I've heard Obsidian say the same thing too. He just said it in his podcast. They should go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. You should have a woman and have a community that celebrates who you are and what you can do genuinely, and not tolerate it because what you can provide them. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a conversation with a black woman or a black woman that I'm banging, and because you're knocking boots with her and you blowing her back out, she will tolerate you. So you're in a deep conversation for something you just learned and you're excited about it, and you start running it down to her, and the only thing she can say is that's deep. Translation for I don't understand one word that you've just fucking said. So I know there's a lot of times that that black men, or especially black squares, will get frustrated because you can't talk to anybody in the black community. You're constantly trying to figure out a way how you can explain things to them. So that's just so you can have a conversation, which is not too bad amongst your friends. Even your ghetto brothers on the street, man, if it's a topic and you happen to be explaining something, he wants, he wants the information. He's just going to say, hey man, break it down to where I can understand it. And even they can actually get into the conversation, but a black woman will get mad at you. She'll think what you're saying and what you're talking about is boring. She'll think what you're saying about Deutsche Bank or Brexit or the Hillary Clinton emails is boring because it's not the Housewives of Atlanta. It's not Love and Hip Hop. It's not Being Mary Jane or Empire. It's not How to Get Away with Murder. If you're not talking about her hair, her nails, her local problems that she has with work, or the latest song on the radio, it's boring. So even though you're in a relationship, basically you're alone. So you find yourself listening more than talking. So that's why that's why you're starting to see the leaving or the rebellion of the educated black man, the upper class black guy, or the squares. Even working class black men are leaving. I hear it all the time. I was just listening to the Bitter Truth show. They think you hate women because you're complaining about your needs, because you need a woman that you can actually trust, that you can actually work with, that you can actually be with. You don't want to get married and have sex once a week. So then you have to find extra money and work extra hard, because now you have to support not one woman, but two women while she goes fuck somebody else for free. But that's another rant that I'm going to go on. But I'm not going to do it in this one. But that's the question of the day. Should the educated brothers, should the capable brothers stop being what Obsidian calls community eunuchs for the black community that doesn't like you? It'd be one thing if they liked you. It's one thing if they appreciated you. And sometimes they don't even tolerate you. You're the butt of every joke. If you listen to black relationship coaches, the women that talk about black relationships, you're the butt of the joke. You're the do nothing nigga. You're the no fucking nigga. You're the boring guy. You're the guy that's not exciting. You're the guy that's not this, that, or the other. You name it. You're the lame nigga. That's a low key hatred for you. So my thing is, why should guys like us or guys like you, because I'm old now, it doesn't matter to me anymore. But for young guys that are squares, for young guys that are the educated lames, why should you build a legacy in a community that can't stand you? They can't stand you. The women can't stand you. They can barely stand to be around you. They need you because they need to make their kids smarter. They need you because they need a better community. They need you because they need you to pull up the black community. They need all these things from you, and they're demanding all these things from you, but you're not getting anything in return. Because as soon as they get these things, they get their kids raised, guess what they're going to do? The guy that she's been fucking for 15, 20 years, she's going to drop you like a hot potato, and you're going to be 50, 60 years old with nothing. And then after that, after she drops you and divorces and moves on, your children are still going to come back, and they're still going to require money and require more of it until you're dead. It never stops. And they never give anything back. You didn't get it when you were a kid. You didn't get it in college. You didn't get it in your 20s. But now they want to, when you get to your 30s, they want to demand all this stuff, sacrifice from you. And they never gave anything to you. And they will never give anything to you. Quiet as it's kept. That's why T. Hassan Johnson says 80% of the guys he knows that are on that level, that are professors on that level, they are with non-American black women. I wonder why that is. And he's not the first educator or first person on that level to say the same thing. Is it time for the talented 10th, as Du Bois calls us, to just let them go? I don't know, but that's the question of the day. With that, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Thank you for your indulgence. This is BGS out.